One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet who millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday evening show. We're going to be showing interview with J.D. Vance and with Sean Hannity at 9 o'clock. And here, before we start, I'm going to just talk about a few things that I thought were pretty interesting that I saw today. You know, I've seen some of the clips from J.D. Vance, and from my earlier show, boy, did the hate mail ramp up, both on, actual emails and comments on Twitter. I am over the target. I am definitely floating over the target, and I'm watching people taking shots at me. Not literal, not talking literal, but I'm pissing some people off because I'm asking questions and they don't have the answers. I will continue to ask questions, and I will continue to watch people flounder without having the answers. And other people are getting mad that I'm even posing the questions. These are the same questions you should be posing. These are the same things that you should be able to pull the onion layers back and go, what in the hell are you people talking about? Nothing is making any sense. I'm going to show you something here. In fact, one guy in the earlier show told me to stop talking about real estate when everybody in the world's talking about real estate right now. So I had to put my boat show thing here behind me. Everybody's talking about real estate. It's like the number one thing right now, that and, the files. And J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, is going to be talking about, affordable housing. So I'm not going to go into a real estate show here. I've done that enough. I'm just going to ask you guys some questions. I'm going to show you a short video here before we get going. And I want you to tell me, how can these two things both be true? You're going to see something here coming up. And when you're done seeing what I have to show you, this question, you have to sit back and to realize that there is a psyop going on both sides of the aisle. The Republicans are running a psyop. The Democrats are running a psyop. How can it possibly be that they are both coming to the same conclusion? So I want you to listen to this.
I think if he fixes his message, he can come back, his numbers can come back up. The question is the Republicans who completely crap the bed. And I don't know if anybody's going to believe them, but it's going to take like basically the Manhattan Project to figure out how to get Republicans to win next fall. And I don't think they're going to be able to do the whole thing. So I think they need to lay out basically like a contract for America that's focused on brutal accountability and economic populism. And
all right, stop. Mark, you're talking too fast. We're going to have Mark on the show next week sometime or whatever. But Manhattan Project, nuclear bomb, blow it all up. Nothing's working. You're going to have to do everything you possibly can to fix it. There's nothing that's working. We got to go full nuclear, blow up the entire Republican Party. Didn't say MAGA. Notice that. Didn't say blow up MAGA, said blow up the entire Republican Party. It's useless. It's not working anymore. There may be some people who believe that. That may indeed be true. But is the answer going completely nuclear on the party? Or is there other reasons why people are saying this at this point?
Basically undoing the oligarchy, because the left's going to do it if the right doesn't, and you're not going to like how the left does it. And they aren't going to be able to get all that done, but they need to lay out what they can pragmatically get done with whatever reconciliation they have or whatever.
Okay, whatever. I'm pretty sure President Trump put out a 30-point plan on what he wants to do. He's already laid it out. Tell me why people are freaking out right now. What happened all of a sudden that 30 points of light, basically, that President Trump was going to follow, here's all the things we're going to do, and now all of a sudden, there's panic? Oh my God, the sky's falling. It's the worst thing ever. We got to blow it all up. Wait, pump the brakes. Having built houses, let me just tell you that you may not see the finished product. You got to, get the dirt. You got to level the dirt. You got to clear out the trees and the rocks, make sure the dirt's good. Then you got to lay the foundation. Well, before you lay the foundation, you got to do the plumbing. You got to drop in and dig the hole and dig the trench so that the pipes can come up. Then you lay the foundation around the pipe stubs. Then once the foundation cures, which might take a little bit, depending on where you live, you got to wait and let that foundation take hold. Then once that foundation takes hold, then you build the walls, because you can't put the roof on until you build the walls. Then once you build the walls, then you put the roof on, then you got to go around the exterior of the house. And well, see, here's differently. I'm using a stick-built version versus down here, you have to build them with concrete blocks all the way around. Then you go inside and you start putting up the 2x4s and framing out. This one's going to be the bedroom. This is going to be the kitchen. And you got to do all that. Then the electrician and the plumber all come in. My example here is to ask you a question. What stage are we in right now in President Trump's term? Where are we in terms of building this house? I don't think anybody other than the inner circle even knows. We don't know where we are with this, but now because the roof hasn't put on, according to some people, and that the dirt doesn't look good, let's blow it all up. I don't know, man. I think he's got a blueprint. And I think his blueprint says, here's where we need to be. These are the plans. This is what's been approved. Now we're going to start putting in the flooring. Now we're going to start putting in the kitchen. And nobody who hasn't seen these plans has any idea. So how can people on the outside looking in say that we need to blow it all up? There's question number one. Ask somebody, how the hell do you know what the plan is? Oh, well, people are freaking out. What people? Who? Oh, people we call, people we poll, people on X. So? They don't know the plan either. None of us, not you, not me, none of us know the plan at this point. We can't even pretend that we know. And so people are freaking out. Why are they freaking out all of a sudden? Here's another question for you. If you want, there's a tool called Google Trends. And you can go into Google Trends and you can put in affordable housing. How did it just become an issue? I'll get it and I'll show it to you.
We can fix these problems. They will be in power for 50 years. This is This is a generational problem. This is a 100-year problem we're faced with right now. And then the other fix is the Republican Party needs to be cleansed. It is completely 100% corrupt, and you will not win elections with the people who are there. There's
100%, not a little bit. Not like 20%, not Thomas Massey and not Rand Paul. No, all of it, 100% corrupt. Damn, bro. 100%? This is what's being talked about right now. 100% of the Republican Party needs to be nuked. I'm pretty sure there's some good people there. I'm pretty sure there's some bad people. 100%? That's the only way out at this point. There is no way we're going to win the midterms. None, unless we completely nuke the Republican Party. Okay.
Solely there to enrich themselves. They have no principles. There's probably like 5% of them that are good. I hear these stories all the time. They have no one.
There's 5%. Just a second ago in the last sentence, it was 100% were no good. Now it's 95 are bad. Which is it? I mean, theoretically, when we're talking about numbers and we're talking about people who take polls and people who are prognosticators, your numbers can't vary that much. It can't be 100% corrupt and then all of a sudden 95, and the next time you have a question, it's going to be, 80. Who are these 95% people who are completely corrupt? I don't know.
Go to. I get the whistleblower reports because they would get pushed out or redistricted out if they went to anybody. It's so bad. And so the way that can be fixed, and I know a lot of this sounds pie in the sky, is that somebody's got to pony up some money that's not going out for personal interests, like not Ken Griffin buying amnesty. Like there needs to be a chunk of money that goes to a shadow organization that is centralized and creates a grassroots chapter in each state. The central organization runs actual research, understands America, builds an America First platform, figures out what the new wave of conservatism looks like, trains people, creates a pipeline, creates a bench, is run by somebody that's actually built something and not some consulting class scumbag. Can't be headquartered.
Somebody who's actually built something. It has to be run by somebody who's actually built something. You mean like a developer? Do we know any developers who might want to get into politics? Someone who's actually built something? But people want to get mad at me. I'm just pointing the stuff out. One of those things I want to point out for you, and some of you may be aghast when you see this. I think that's the word, aghast. This is a chart. Anybody can go on Google Trends. And when you go on Google Trends, you can put in the chart what people are talking about online. This is the term affordable housing. All I did is just search the last 90 days. What the hell were people talking about in August? How did this become all of a sudden a new trend that just popped up, in October? And here it is in October 2014, and then here's October, what date is that? 20th, and so on. How is it a flat line before that? How is nobody talking about affordable housing since it's such a huge thing? Oh my God, the youth, what are they going to do? What are we going to do? We can't figure out. We're going to lose everything. Nuke it all. So if we're going to nuke it all, why didn't we nuke it, I don't know, 2 years ago? 3 years ago. How was it a literal flat line? Nobody was talking about it. Nobody. You can look at the chart. Go look at yourself. Put it in there. Go ahead and put affordable housing inside of Google Trends. Do the searches. 90 days, 120, 5 years. What happened? What happened that's caused all this stuff to just seem like you got to throw a nuke and blow it all up? Anybody want to answer that question? Anybody? Any pollsters? Any politicians? Why are we at a point right now, because we have to blow everything up because everything is toast, but nobody even was talking about it literally 2 months ago. Wasn't even a blip. It was a flat line. So in order for something to go from a flat line to an issue, it had to have been manufactured. It couldn't be a flat line where nobody was interested. Nobody. Not the kids, not older people, not boomers, nothing. Now all of a sudden it's a hotbed of discussion every single day, even with J.D. Vance about to come on Hannity. How is that even possible? Explain that to me. I'm just a guy asking questions. If this was organic, why would that have happened? How is it possible? You know, I'm a data guy. How is that possible? You would think if this was something that, the kids, they're freaking out. No, the millennials, they hate the boomers. The boomers, nobody was talking about it. And now somebody pours gas on it and all of a sudden becomes an issue. It's so much of an issue that the Republicans can't possibly win unless everybody gets nuked. 100%. And then we need someone who's built something to lead. You mean like the guy who's already president? What are we doing? Well, I'll tell you what's happening on the Republican side.
In Washington, D.C., that organization needs to be put to work immediately, because I already know grassroots types organizations that are so spurned by the Republican Party. They're just trying to do this themselves. They have no air cover. They have no help. They have no support. They have no infrastructure.
Well, I mean, look at InfoWars. Not to wrap myself into it. The left came after us because we were the only thing 9-10 years ago even trying to mobilize a populist conservative culture because it was so blue blood.
It will take a Manhattan Project to win the midterms at this point. How can you even make that statement? What does that even mean? Unless we nuke everything and start over from scratch, the midterms are gone. So you're talking, it's November of 2025. You're saying in 12 months, we have to recreate the entirety of the Republican Party. In 12 months. No, that's not going to happen.
The Republicans, and it got picked up and brought into MAGA, and just Trump talking some of the points got a lot done. And again, I'm not the only game in town. You're right. We need Elon Musk to come in and get with top thinkers and just launch something like that immediately.
We need Elon Musk, some big guns. You know, people have built something. People who aren't named Donald Trump can come in and build something because we need to just change everything. Well, that's your answer. I told you this a couple weeks ago. You're going to begin seeing people jockeying for position, trying to promote their candidate, trying to make sure that their candidate is positioned well. January, all the campaigns start. And when all the campaigns start, people are betting on this horse and that horse and this horse. We want this horse. We want this horse. And they're all trying to figure out how are we going to ingratiate ourselves with the correct horse when we already have a horse, but we don't think that one's working. There's also something else at play in pseudo-MAGA land. There is a void, and that void is the Charlie Kirk audience. The Charlie Kirk audience that was controlled by Charlie Kirk no longer has Charlie Kirk. I don't know if Erica Kirk is going to be that person who's going to be able to manifest into Charlie and push this organization. So I can see that there's people jockeying and saying there's a void here, i.e. void equals opportunity. What if I slip in here? I'm going to slip all up in these DMs here, and I'm going to grab hold of these eyeballs called youngsters. And I'm going to sell them a big old heaping steamy pile of hopium. We're going to sell them the dream. You can go ahead and buy one of these boats back here. The only reason you can't buy that boat because Barry's big ass boomer ass is sitting in front of it and he won't let you buy it. That's your problem. You can't get that because other people won't let you. So we need to nuke the whole thing, and we'll show you how to do it. Well, that's not going to work either. Now, if everything you just heard is true, then tell me how we're going to lose the midterms if this is true.
I'm not impressed by the history of this being the longest government shutdown. That's a regrettable history. I think this is an historic moment for another reason. I think the Democratic Party, as we know it, is about to end.
I'm so confused. We can't win. We're going to get destroyed in the midterms. The Democrat Party, as we know it, is about to end. They're dead. How can both of these things be true? How can they simultaneously be true? You can't win unless you nuke the entire party. Hey, these guys are dead. Well, they can't be true. They can't simultaneously be true. What in the hell is going on? Right now we're seeing people saying both sides of the aisle are dead. Steamroller came in and killed the Republicans, and it also steamrolled in and killed the Democrats simultaneously. You're an adult. You're smart. Tell me the possibility of that happening.
I think that this is the birth of the new left. I think the reason that you see so many high-profile Democrats, especially in the House, accusing the Democratic senators for ending the shutdown of basically being traitors. Did you hear her AOC? She was literally accusing them of like a conspiracy. And she said, in exchange for nothing. It's really interesting to me. It makes so little sense.
I agree with Chris Cuomo. None of this makes any sense. Both parties can't be terminal. We can't defibrillate or have both of these patients at the same time, exactly at the same time. On November 13th, both of them were having racing defibrillators. Clear. How can that be? If I'm winning, somebody's losing. If I'm losing, somebody's winning. How can there be a tie for last place? You both suck, is what everybody's trying to get you to believe at this point. Why would you say that both parties suck? Because I've got door number 2 here. This guy here is coming in. He's going to be coming in January. He's going to show you, what we can do. Oh, over there. Oh, yeah, we got somebody coming in too. This is perfect. We got 2 new people because both of these patients, they flatlined. That's what's happening. They're trying to kill off both political parties so that somebody can rise up out of the ashes and be the savior that each one of them need to start anew in January. Except for one thing. We already got a president. We already have a vice president. We already have an administration. We have all this stuff in place. So we're not dead. Our death has been widely exaggerated. And people want it to be dead. They want you to lose all of your zeal when it's just simply to clear the way for other people. I'm even seeing people down here bitching about Byron Donalds and Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis isn't even running. That fight is already taking place.
On the merits, that I have to believe it's a ploy. Why? Well, look, forget about the tricky bit of arguing we should have kept going with this when there are thousands of federal workers and their families not being paid, millions of people in need not getting full SNAP benefits, all the stuff going on with the flights. That's not an easy thing to want more of. So was there some deal on the table that we don't know about? Was something getting close that they know that we don't? Because if that's not the case, and we're about to talk to somebody who absolutely knows if it were the case, certainly better than AOC or Jeffries would, because he's one of the Senate Democrats who was part of this process. If that's not what they know, then what this really is a line in the sand for them.
Bingo. he's smart enough and astute enough to see it on the Democrat side. I'm telling you, the same thing's happening on the Republican side. People are lining up and getting ready to do battle. We're about to see a battle royale take place in January, and right now they're willing to throw certain people in MAGA to the curb. There cannot be simultaneously two dead competitors. Can't happen. It's completely illogical. You shouldn't have to nuke this if they're nuking theirs. All right, well, just tell me. I mean, people ask questions, and sometimes the question people are asking don't make any sense either. You're not looking at the right question. Dale says here, the simple answer on affordability, drop interest rates so we're competitive with the rest of the world. And thank you for your comment. But how, and I've said this to many, many people, how does interest rates create affordability for a first-time young home buyer? People haven't thought this out, and they scream at me when I'm talking about real estate. I'm like, yeah, Dale, great question for me. I'd love a cheaper rate. How's that help the people they're all screaming about? The affordable housing. You know what? Most of these kids couldn't afford a mortgage if there was no interest. Let that sink in. Let that sink in right now, that all the people talking about affordable housing, you got to do affordable housing for the young people. Even if there were no interest, zero interest loan, you get to just sign away, they still can't afford it. Do the math. The down payment, the closing costs, those are things that are up front. The insurance, all of the things. Then you get into the maintenance. I'm like, you bought a house. We all buy houses. We know what they don't even know what they're talking about. Oh, we're going to make things more affordable. The only way you can make it affordable for some of these young people is to give it to them. Yep, here's the keys. It's yours. Otherwise, you tell me, if they're screaming on TikTok about not having any money, well, where are they going to come up with $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for a down payment, another $3,000 or $4,000 for closing costs, another, $1,200 to $1,500 for insurance? Then you got your annual property taxes, and then. These kids are being sold hopium. Charlie wasn't selling hopium. He was telling them to go do the right thing, and then eventually you can buy a home. Now you've got the panicans out there telling them everybody deserves it, and it's boomers' fault because you can't get one. No, it's not boomers' fault. You just can't get one. Like I've said many times, I want a Cybertruck. My wife won't let me get it. Boomer. Can't believe she's booming out on me.
That we're not with them anymore. And that's why the vote will be somewhat telling also. We've never seen this happen before. Never. Okay? Not in the modern era. Okay? So capitulation on policy from the majority party in power when the government gets shut down, obviously, by the minority has never happened. I get why you would want to believe that something could happen, but with the absence of any proof, it only leaves you with one possibility, which is they want to divide the party.
Just take what he said and apply that to the Republicans. It could only lead you to one conclusion. If you have any sort of brain at this point, you can see right now there is a concerted effort to divide us. The people who don't want the status quo and we got to blow it all up is the only way possible. That's impossible. That cannot be correct. And it definitely can't be correct at the same time as the other party.
They want maybe to blow up the party, get new leaders in a new direction. I believe this could be the moment that the populist movement that is a reaction to MAGA, which I've been calling mega, it's not the same, but it's fueled in reaction to MAGA, and by the Democratic Socialists of America, and with their new allies who are playing with some fundamentalist culture plays, are getting ready to take over.
Bingo. Bingo. So if that's what's going on the left, if they are absolutely getting ready to fight and take over, that's exactly what you're seeing on the right. They have made their decision. They have flipped the switch, and they are now getting in position of who do we want in January. And damn the torpedoes, we're going to nuke this whole thing to make sure we get what we want. And you watch how people begin right away in January going in and trying to campaign for certain people. Now, Hannity's coming out. Let me see, as soon as he goes to J.D. Vance, we will jump right to it. He's talking right now, doing his intro. But I just want to leave you with that. I want to leave you with that thought. I want to make sure that you understand that both of those things can't simultaneously be true. You can't have two dead things that are opponents. One of them has to be alive and winning. The other one has to be losing. And if you're thinking they're both dead, then you're throwing it all away. All of it. Which can't be true. And so it's going to be up to you, even if you're a boomer, to start asking questions. Stop letting people dictate the conversation. It's a very simple question, so how can we possibly be dead? Here we go. Wow, that was quick.
Hey, welcome. Good.
Appreciate
Good. How you doing?
And thanks for sitting down. Well, I guess we start with a little good news.
Yeah.
Government is open.
That's right.
Okay, longest shutdown in history. Can you tell me what the point of all that was?
I wish that I knew, Sean, because here's what the Democrats actually accomplished. They caused a lot of stress for our troops. They made our air traffic controllers not get paid. They caused a lot of flight cancellations. They had a lot of people thinking they weren't going to get their food benefits, all for literally nothing, Sean, because we could have struck this exact deal 45 days ago. In fact, we met with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer and said, we will pass this exact deal. They said no. They put the American people through a ton of pain and suffering for nothing. And we knew this was going to happen, Sean. We knew the President of the United States said every single day, eventually the Democrats are going to realize this is an absurd position. We've got to reopen the government. And that's what they did.
As bad as it was getting, I'm trying to comprehend the thinking behind this. Except for 8 Democrats in the Senate and 6 in the House, they wanted it to continue. And there's real palpable anger that it didn't continue. I think Chuck Schumer's cooked as a result, even though he did everything that his base wanted.
Yeah, so let me say a couple things. First of all, I do give a lot of credit for the moderate Democrats in the Senate who were with us from the very beginning. Because if you remember the original bill to keep the government open before the shutdown even started, there were 52 GOP senators, 3 Democratic senators. They recognized where this was going. They recognized what was in the best interest of the country. But I think, Sean, there are so many far left people who run the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C., they just want to burn it down. They don't care if the troops don't get paid. They don't care if you cause billions of dollars of lost productivity. They don't care if you shut down the airline industry, which they were very close to doing. They just want to get Trump. And they don't care if they have to burn the entire country down in order to get Trump. That's what they want to do. And I think that it shows how stupid that approach is politically, because normally you would expect the President of the United States to get blamed for a shutdown. The American people were smart enough to recognize that the Democrats were the ones who were sort of holding this hostage. They were saying that unless you give us everything that we want, unless you give us $1.5 trillion of benefits, health care for illegal aliens, we're going to destroy the country. We're going to keep the government shut down indefinitely. I think the president recognized eventually the American people are going to recognize this is the Democrats doing this. The Democrats, I think, made a huge political mistake by continuing to push for all of these crazy things. And they said, if you don't give all these crazy things, we're going to keep the government shut down. It was politically stupid, but you're right. I don't understand the psychology of a Democrat who says, we'd like to burn the country down in order to get Donald Trump. But unfortunately, it just drives home. That's what their party is about.
That was the thing, $1.5 trillion. Hundreds of billions of dollars for health care for illegals, DEI programs abroad, NPR, PBS to fund them once again. And I'm like, that's the hill you want to die on? During the process, at any point, did any Democrat, any leader, did you have conversations with them, say, work this out with me? Did that happen behind the scenes that nobody knows about?
Oh, of course. Privately, we were having conversations all the time. And frankly, privately, the Democrats would recognize the position of their far left was crazy. But they all feel a little bit like they're being held hostage by their far left. You said it very well. Chuck Schumer, this probably ended his career. And he was the person who was fighting more than anybody to keep the government shut down. So the far left, they're never going to be satisfied unless the Democrats are willing to burn down the entire country. Luckily, there were a few moderate Democrats who allowed reason to prevail. We have to step back, Sean, and remember how crazy the demands were. They wanted $1.5 trillion, a lot of that healthcare benefits for illegal aliens. They wanted us to undo all of the great border policy that we've been doing. They wanted us to refund, like you said, NPR and PBS. They were basically saying that we want the far left's priorities to dominate in the Trump administration, and unless that happens, we're going to set the entire country on fire. A really disgraceful moment for the far left of the Democrats, and frankly, a very revealing moment for the American people, because what were they asking, Sean? They weren't saying that we want to do great things for the American people. They weren't talking about jobs. They weren't talking about health care. They were talking about give us $1.5 trillion for health care benefits for illegal aliens. And unless you do that, we're going to make it impossible for you to fly home to see your family on Thanksgiving. It's just craziness that was ever their position, but it was.
Will we get it back up and running fast?
You know, it's going to take a little bit of time to get everything fully up and running. They actually brought the bill over to my house last night around 9 o'clock to sign it because as the president of the Senate, I had to sign it for the Senate. Mike Johnson signed it for the House. And then, of course, the president of the United States had to sign it into law.
Uber eating bills from Congress?
Right.
Is that...
Basically, I mean, the Senate parliamentarian was driving around in an Uber going from place to place to get this thing signed. But I had this conversation with the president yesterday afternoon. I said, assuming the House is able to get this done, do you want to sign this tomorrow morning? He said, no, I want to sign it tonight because the only way to get the people's government turned back on as quickly as possible was to sign the bill as quickly as possible. But, you know, it goes to show the entire time, the president, the entire administration, we were focused on getting the government turned back on, getting critical services actually funded so the government could function for the American people. The Democrats were focused on, we want to take you hostage. We want to make it hard for you to get home to see your family on Thanksgiving so that we can give your health care benefits to illegal aliens. What an incredible juxtaposition of priorities. We care about Americans. They care about illegal aliens. That's been true for years. They made it super clear with this government shutdown fight.
Let's talk about, obviously, the economy is always front and center for most Americans. I would argue that foundationally, everything's set. Trillions of dollars of committed monies for manufacturing, largest tax cuts in history. It took quite a while, over a year and a half, for the Reagan tax cuts to kick in.
That's right.
Ended up with 21 million new jobs, longest period peacetime economic growth. President Trump now has given us the largest tax cut in history. No tax, tips, Social Security, overtime. Then you add the energy component. So for people now that maybe are still suffering from the Biden-Harris economic hangover, when do we really see the engine of the economy start to take off?
Well, some of it's already started, Sean, but some of it is going to take a long time because we inherited a disaster. We inherited the highest peacetime debt and deficits in the history of the United States of America. We inherited the worst inflation crisis in at least the last 40 years, and I think probably longer. So a lot of Americans, when we took over, they were struggling. They either were underemployed or they didn't have a job altogether. Their wages had been stagnant. And the President of the United States said the most important thing that we have to fix is for people to be able to live a good life. We need a good job to pay good wages. We need people to be able to go to the grocery store and actually buy what they need for their family. That takes a little bit of time. And I know that there are a lot of people out there, Sean, who are saying things are expensive. And we have to remember they're expensive because we inherited this terrible inflation crisis from the Biden administration. But you've already seen signs that things are getting better. The price of eggs has gone way down. The price of energy has gone way down. The price of gasoline has gone way down. And as we know, when the price of energy goes down, that starts to filter out into the entire economy. But that also takes a little bit of time. There's another component of this, Sean, which to me is maybe the most important because I care so much about our young people being able to afford a good life. A lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who were taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. And at the same time, we weren't building enough new houses to begin with, even for the population that we had. So what we're doing is trying to make it easier to build houses, trying to make it easier to build factories and things like that so that people have good jobs. We're also getting all of those illegal aliens out of our country, and you're already seeing it start to pay some dividends. Let me give you a very clear statistical example. Under the Biden administration, the price of a new home literally doubled in 4 years. It went up 100%. Under the Trump administration, housing and rent prices are up about 1% to 2%. That's actually in line with what you would like to see. So again, we inherited a disaster. We're very mindful of the fact that there's a lot of work to do, but I think that we've made great progress. And the final point I'll make about this, Sean, is the most important way to fix this affordability crisis is to make people's wages go up. And that is where the Trump economy, I think, just objectively, obviously I'm very biased, but I think objectively is doing better than any economy in 50 or 60 years. Blue collar wages are going up, working people's wages, middle class wages are going up, and that's how we ultimately chip away at the Biden affordability crisis, is that we make an economy where people can afford to buy the things that they need. The best way to do that is good jobs and good wages, and that's why the president's focus is where it is.
I want to see that manufacturing get online, because those are high-paying career jobs.
Yes, they are.
You know, we are going to bring in-house. We always imported and were relying on other countries for pharmaceuticals, semiconductor chips, automobile manufacturing. The president negotiated it out. Those deals, I want to see those jobs get online, hopefully sooner rather than later.
That's right.
Apple's going to spend what? $500 billion in Texas.
They're going to spend at least $500 billion in the United States, and that's just Apple. We've seen about $18 trillion of new capital commitments, Sean. That, to your point, those are good career-creating jobs, and nothing like that has ever happened in this country. If you go back to the Biden administration, a good year for the Biden administration was a few $100 billion of investments. The president is getting trillions upon trillions of new investments. Now, of course, I'm mindful that people were suffering, Sean, because those factories don't get built overnight. These things actually take a little bit of time. But here's what's different from the Trump administration, the Biden administration. The president is focused now on getting people good jobs, getting people higher wages, and bringing down the cost of goods. We inherited a disaster. We've chipped away at a lot of that problem in 10 months. But that's why you've got 4-year terms, because we're going to do a lot over the next 3 years, 3 months to make sure that more people can afford a good life. They can afford to buy homes. Young people can afford to start families. And we've actually got good jobs that put people on a career trajectory to stability. The biggest problem with the Biden economy wasn't even the affordability. That was the second biggest problem. The biggest problem with the Biden economy is that people had the kind of jobs where they couldn't build a career out of it. They'd make $14, $15 an hour with no promise of ever being able to make more. That is not how you build a middle-class American dream. That's how you build debt service. And that's what the American people are becoming under Joe Biden. It's so important that we stay the course, keep these economic policies going so that Americans can own a stake in their own future, build the kind of life that every American deserves.
Back to the home building part. It's interesting you brought it up. Are you as obsessed with AI as I am?
I am.
Okay, I don't know. I'm a grok guy.
Okay. Me too. I'm a grok guy.
You're a grok guy. Okay, Elon. I think it's the best.
I think it's the best. It's also the least woke. I'm always asking myself, if I ask an AI a question, is it going to give me an objective answer?
If the vice president puts it in extreme mode.
Give me a woke answer.
If you put it in extreme mode just for kicks and giggles, it's a little. Well, if you want,
I have not, Sean. I don't want the media to attack
If you want
me.
to know the neighborhood that Donald Trump grew up in and the kind of language you probably heard every day, you put it in extreme mode. It's pretty funny.
I could tell it's talking like my grandmother, and then we'd be in good shape.
Oh, okay, so the housing shortage, the estimate is what? Between 4.5 and 6 million homes. We're shy right now?
I've heard those numbers, yep.
Okay, I met a guy that's building a company that 70% of a home can be built with robots at about $200 a square foot. Now, where I live in Florida, you're not getting any home anywhere near $200 a square foot. So will that be a factor? And then you have to think of, okay, are we going to lose blue-collar jobs? How do we transition people into the economy if they're going to lose those jobs?
Yeah, so a few things about that, Sean. First, we probably need to build about 5 million new homes. And if you look in the red states, we're actually doing a very good job. One of the biggest challenges that we have in the housing market, aside from too many illegal aliens who are taking the houses of American citizens, is that in the blue states, you're not building enough houses. So you go to California. Why are so many people moving out of California? It's, yes.
I have a guess. There's no
Gavin
water.
Newsom.
No. Your friend Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, my friend Gavin Newsom.
Maybe if they put water and fire hydrants and reservoirs, that might help, right?
Yeah, but they're not building houses. You look at those terrible fires that happen in Los Angeles.
So
you
sad.
have people who are still trying to get the permitting to rebuild their houses. This happened so long ago. So we've got to get our blue states to build enough houses for their citizens, because our red states and the federal government is actually doing a really good job. By the way, one of the biggest cities where you're seeing housing costs come down? Austin, Texas, because they're choosing smart policies and they're building enough housing. Now, on the AI issue, look, I understand why people are worried that, if you have a robot doing that job, does it take away from a blue collar worker who can do that job? Right now, the evidence that I see is that if we really lean into robotics and technology, it's going to raise everybody's wages and make everybody better off. The example that I often give is of bank tellers. If you go back to when the automated teller machine was invented, everybody said it was going to destroy the jobs of all the bank tellers. What actually happened is that today you have more people working in bank telling than you did 50 years ago. They're doing different jobs. They're not just handing people money. They're doing different jobs, but they have higher wages. So sometimes what technology does is it allows somebody to do something a little bit different, to use their mind a little bit more than some of the rote tasks they might have been doing. And that actually means they're more productive, they get better wages, and everybody becomes better off. So I don't think that we're going to ever eliminate the construction industry in this country just because you've got robots. What you're going to have is a lot of construction workers who are using those robots, who are directing those robots, who are actually able to do more with less because they're using technology to help them. You're always going to need construction workers in this economy, but I want their wages to go up. And I think if we lean into technology, that's what's going to happen.
It's actually amazing, because you'll see them, they'll do the framing, they'll put on the siding, actually a robot will put on the roof. It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy.
They'll wire the house, they'll put in insulation, they'll put up the wallboard, they'll paint the wallboard, and then the finish work, in comes the craftsman. I'm not so sure that the AI is going to be able to do that, at least in the short term, but it wouldn't surprise me.
No, I think a lot of the craftsmanship, a lot of the direction, a lot of the management, you're going to need a human being to do that. No robot can replace a great blue-collar construction worker. You see some of the houses, some of the things they do, the trim that they're able to do. There's an art there that I don't think a robot's ever going to be able to replace. But can a robot maybe make it easier for a construction worker to put more nails and more walls over a shorter period of time? Some of the rote things, in other words, you're going to see, I think, robotics help the construction workers, and I think that's going to lead to higher wages, and it's also going to lead to more homes for American citizens.
The president would love it if they could build the one big, beautiful ballroom faster. If a robot could do it faster, I think he'd hire the robot, because I know that's obviously important.
Well, but this is an interesting point, though, Sean, because if you go back to there really are, I think, two different models of how you make people more productive, of how you create economic growth, of how you make people better off. The Democrat model was import low-wage immigrants, and I really do think that hurt the jobs of our construction workers. It hurt the wages of a lot of our blue-collar workers. But their idea was the way that we get more prosperity is that you import more and more low-wage servants. And that actually, I think, reduced prosperity because it meant that a lot of our blue-collar workers were struggling. But if you use technology and you empower the blue-collar workers rather than replace them with foreign labor, I think they're going to do way better. They're going to make higher wages, and the whole country is going to be better off. In other words, do you depend on low-wage immigrants, or do you depend on American citizens bolstered by technology and innovation? That's the Trump model, and I think that's the model that's going to deliver long-term prosperity for this country.
All right, and coming up, more of my exclusive.
All right, so a couple things that he said right there. You guys heard him. I said 150 to 160 bucks a square foot to build a home. Sean said 200 bucks to build a home, 200 bucks a square foot. Just do the math. And as we're talking about this stuff, remember, we're not talking about you. You, an adult who has history, work history, money in the bank. You're a boomer. You don't count. I'm talking about the extreme push that they are trying to get these young kids into homes. Because what's going to happen, you think they're pissed off at boomers now, the interest rate drops and homes become, quote, more affordable. Who do you think is going to be first in line to buy some of those homes? Well, the people who can actually buy them. You, me. Those kids are still so far away that all this hopium that they're giving about, we need to get more affordable homes, you don't got any money. You're selling these kids a dream, not a dream, a fantasy. It's bad. It's bad. I'm glad he said that. $200 a square foot. I said, as you heard, 150, 160. It's absolutely incredible. Let me see what we got here. All right. So what, I'm just checking something. Yeah. 160. All right, so let me talk to you a second here about the Patriot Addict Berry Pack. Hold on. Ooh. Hey, everybody. Patriot Addict, one of our great sponsors here, is back with another great offer for you. It's a Trump collector's bundle that they have named the Berry Pack. This Berry Pack is the ultimate Trump collection. It features the Trump 4547 hat, which I just happen to have right here. The Trump 4547 hat. That's what you get as part of the Berry Pack. Trump 4547 hat. In addition, you get the Trump 2024 flag that's been selling out nationwide. I want you to take a look at this flag. It's awesome. Let's go ahead and put it aside so you guys can see it. We use it sometimes out in the yard. Lots of friends put it on their boat. The President Trump 2024 flag, Make America Great Again. That's part of the Berry Pack. What else do you get? Well, in addition to the hat and the flag, you also get the Trump blanket. We were showing these a while back, but it was too warm. It was summertime. Now that we're here in the fall and headed to winter and here in the holiday season, here is the Trump blanket. It's huge. It's warm. It's big. It's perfect for a tailgate, perfect for a hayride, or just hanging out back on the porch next to your fire pit. In addition, okay, keep realizing what we got here. We have the Trump hat. We have the Trump flag, we have the Trump blanket, but now you also get the Trump red knife. The Trump red knife, which I've shown you many times, you get this Trump red knife. Let's look at it. It's sharp. It's got the window breaker. It's got the seatbelt cutter, very sharp. It's assisted opening, good weight. Great knife. Great knife. Many people here in Fanfare have gotten this knife. So now let's recap again. You get the hat. You get the blanket. You get the flag. You get the Trump red knife. But if you order the Berry Pack, which comes with no shipping charges or hidden fees on this knife, all these 4 items would normally cost $238, but they're practically giving it away to our viewers for just $69. And just be aware, prices have already gone up, so I strongly recommend you take action now. They set aside just 500 berry packs for Fanfare, and they're already down to the last few, and I can't guarantee this collection will ever be available again. So scan the QR code right over here or visit berrypack.com. berrypack.com to claim yours before they disappear forever. That's berrypack.com, or scan the QR code now. And just to remind you, it's the hat, it's the red knife, it's the blanket. Let me make sure it's open. It's the blanket, very nice blanket, and it's the flag. Where's the flag? Yeah, all of this. Just go to berrypack.com. You want to put that on your stoop, or on your boat, or on your pickup truck. It's a full collector's pack. So go to berrypack.com or click the QR code on the screen right now and get yours. Alrighty, so they're not back yet. We're waiting for Hannity and J.D. Vance to come back on screen, and we will jump right to them. So I hope you've been hearing something thus far. And one of the problems that you're probably hearing as you've been going through and listening to this interview is that the stuff we're hearing about the kids, they keep talking about the kids, because like I say, I think this has something to do with trying to take over Charlie Kirk's throne. And I think people are trying to make it, I mean, somebody actually posted today Charlie's top 5 things. And one of Charlie's top 5 things was build 10 million new homes. Sean's back. We go back to that in a second. So he's just doing an intro. You can listen.
President of our great country. We covered a ton of topics, including the vice president's political thoughts about the future. Here's part 2 of that exclusive interview. You first become the vice president, and first I interviewed you at the convention.
The very first interview I did as the VP nominee.
The first interview, thank you. And we had an interview right after you got sworn in. You're almost on the job a full year. Tell me about the job. And by definition, you have to be ready at a God forbid, moment's notice.
Sure.
I think that's a heavy weight to put on anybody's shoulders. Obviously, if you obsess about it, I don't think that'd be healthy. You seem to go with the flow pretty well. Do you have quiet moments you think about that?
Yeah, honestly, Sean, I try not to. I mean, one, I serve under Donald Trump, who is very healthy.
He casts a pretty big shadow.
He casts a big shadow, but if I served under Joe Biden, I'd probably be worried every minute of every day that he was going to croak and that I'd have to become president. But because I serve a president...
You have a bat phone. Okay, did it just happen?
Like, I'd never be able to sleep. I'd always have my cell phone as loud as possible. But no, the president, one, you know, he's got a lot of energy. He's extremely healthy. So I don't think about that. Obviously, that's part of the job, is you've got to be ready if tragedy strikes. But the thing that I try to do, Sean, is I just try to be as much of a force multiplier for the president and the whole administration. You know, if the president needs to talk to 10 people in Congress, he can only make 5 of those phone calls. I can make the other 5. If the president needs to meet with a business leader, but he can't meet with them because he's meeting with somebody else, then I can meet with that person. If the president needs somebody to go visit a factory, he can't do it for one reason or another, then I go and do that. And what I try to think is, so long as the president trusts me, and so long as I'm loyal to the president in return, then he can just have me go and do something and not worry about whether it's going to get done, not worry about whether somebody's going to blab to the media about it. That's the way that I try to approach this job, is the best use of my time is to be a force multiplier for him in the administration. That's what I've tried to do. I think that it's worked out really well so far. But part of that is also the president you serve under. You know, when you talk to people about the job of vice president, it can either be a really high impact job, a real partnership with the presidency, or it can be a job where you sit around and hope the phone doesn't ring. And because the president trusts me and because of the way that he does his job, he's made it possible for me to be very involved in the business of running the country. That's an awesome thing. It's an exciting thing. I pinch myself every day. I mean, look where we are, this beautiful room. And I try to remember that it's a great honor and a great blessing to serve. And I just try to do the job that I can every day.
The last place my parents ever thought I'd be. I'm just visiting. What have you learned from President Trump? I mean, he is a force of nature.
He is.
I've known him 30 years. What have you learned from him?
You know, a few things. Number one, the president is amazing at compartmentalizing things. When something is going on, there's always a crisis. The very best day in the West Wing, there's at least one crisis somewhere in the world that somebody's putting at your desk. The president has an incredible ability to sort of say, okay, focus on that for 15 minutes and then go and focus on something totally different for 15 minutes. That's not naturally how I am. If something bad is going on, I tend to want to think about that thing and solve that problem before I go on to something else. The president is incredible at that compartmentalization. I think that's one of the reasons why he can handle 10 different problems at once, is because he's able to troubleshoot and then move on to the next thing, troubleshoot and move on to the next thing. The second thing that I've learned from the president, Sean, and I've tried to absorb it as much as I can, and I think some of this is just who he is and his natural instincts, is he has better instincts about human beings than anybody that I've ever met. And again, the president of the United States, you think about this, you can't read every briefing and every detail about every single topic. 100 different things are coming into the Oval Office every hour. right? So part of it is you've got to be able to trust the people around you to delegate and to execute. But to have that trust for people, you've got to have very, very good instincts. And the president has an amazing ability to know when somebody's trying to get something over on him, when somebody's actually thinking about things in the best interest of the country. It's almost a supernatural ability to read human beings. And I've tried to learn as much as I can about it. And again, some of that is just his innate ability. Some of that is something that I think that you can pick up. And I've tried to pick that up as much as I can because it's amazing, Sean. Let me give you an example. There was a time where there was a meeting that I couldn't go to again because I think I just had to be on Capitol Hill related to the big, beautiful bill. And I was really worried that I wouldn't be in the meeting because I knew what the people in the meeting were going to say. And I was worried that I couldn't push back against it. And I remember talking to the president about it later, and he knew exactly what they were going to say. He knew exactly what their angle was. He knew exactly what their motivation was. And he reads people and tries to use, it's almost he's able to use people's own motivations to figure out whether they're trying to get something that's good for America or whether they're trying to get something that's good for them. And obviously, if it's good for America, he's all on board. If it's just good for them, he's going to be a little bit more skeptical. But that capacity to figure that out, I think it's why he's such an effective leader and why he's such a good president.
To be able to compartmentalize is a skill. To have discernment also, I think, is a gift.
Sure.
And I kind of feel like a lot of my life I've had the ability to read people very well.
Yes.
And it's served me well in my life.
I think that I have that ability too, but I think the president takes it up to a totally different level. His discernment is really remarkable.
The energy level is beyond. I mean, I went on a golf trip with him. 17 hours there, 17 hours back, and he's awake the whole time.
It's unbelievable.
And he expects you to be awake.
Well, it's unbelievable. It's actually, I joke with some of the cabinet because the president and I can't travel together. That's one of the things, right? We're never on the same airplane.
Right.
And they're always like, you're very lucky.
You like that?
Well, they're always saying, you're so lucky because if we go on a 20-hour trip somewhere, he doesn't sleep the entire time. And of course, if he's not sleeping, if he's working, he expects everybody else to be working too. Right. So again, the energy that the guy has really is off the charts. But again, you've got to have that level of energy to do this job successfully. For all of Biden's problems and all the policy disagreements that I have with the Biden administration, I really do wonder, was Biden able to stay on top? Did he have the physical and mental ability to stay on top of everything that comes through his
I can
door?
answer.
The answer is no, of course not. And that's the one thing that, agree or disagree with President Trump about a given issue, every Democrat and every Republican, I think deep down would recognize this is a guy who has the energy to do the job. That's a very, very rare thing, but that's who you should be electing president of the United States, somebody who's got the energy for it.
I'm not asking you to answer this question, but I am giving you a preview of coming attractions.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll be back a year from now, and there's no avoiding the question.
Okay.
Because we will have just gotten through the midterms.
Sure.
The 2 days after the midterms, we get into a cycle.
Yeah.
Meaning 2028.
Of course.
More, have you thought at all? I mean, I would think it has to go through your head. You're in the Oval Office every day. I'm sure, the times that I've been there to visit and they throw me out is, I pinch myself. I never thought as a kid growing up, my mom was a prison guard, my dad a waiter and a family court probation guy. I'd ever be in that building,
It's
right?
an amazing country, isn't it?
Amazing country.
Yep.
Somebody made a mistake. But, but in all seriousness, this is coming fast.
Sure.
Thinking about it all?
I would say that I've thought about what that moment might look like after the midterm elections, sure. But I also, whenever I think about that, I try to put it out of my head and remind myself, the American people elected me to do a job right now, and my job is to do it. And if you start getting distracted and focused on what comes next, I think it actually makes you worse at the job that you have. And here's what will happen. I mean, look, we're very focused on the midterm elections. I think because what the president has set in motion is a long-term economic revitalization effort for this country. I really want us to win the midterms because if the Democrats get in power, they're going to try to screw up a lot of the great things the president of the United States has done over the past 10 months. Again, trees that have been planted, some of which won't even bear fruit for a few years. I don't want the Democrats to screw that up. So we're going to win the midterms. We're going to do everything that we can to win the midterms. And then after that, I'm going to sit down with the President of the United States and talk to him about it. But let's focus on the now, because we've got well over a year to do as much as we can for the American people. And my attitude, Sean, is look, if we do a good job, the politics will take care of itself. If we do a terrible job, the politics will take care of itself in the other direction. So I'm just going to focus on the job that I have.
I found it a really interesting and actually intriguing comment that you made, saying that Marco Rubio is your best friend in the administration.
Yeah. And by the way,
some people I would think would naturally think, well, maybe they might eventually one day be rivals. I didn't get that impression at all in your comment.
I don't feel like that at all. And I mean, look, if Marco eventually runs for president, then that's that we can cross that bridge when we come to it. But one, look, if you get to
Donald
a situation,
Trump wants to design the next ticket.
I know he does. I know
he'd like to take control of that.
Yeah, but but people have asked me, well, do you see Marco as a rival? First of all, if either one of us end up running, it's a long ways in the future, and neither of us is entitled to it. So I think it would be ridiculous for me to say, well, Marco's a rival. No. Marco's a colleague. The President of the United States has asked each of us to do two very important jobs, and that's what we should focus on. And there's, when I say that Marco's my best friend, that's no insult to anybody else in the administration, because, when I came into the Senate, Marco was a bit of a mentor to me. He's one of the younger guys in the Senate. He's got, by the standards of Washington, he still has a young family. He's got kids who are in law school and college. And so there's just a lot of commonality that we have. We're both people of very strong faith, and our wives get along well. It's just, he's a good guy. And I like coming to work with him, and I like talking to him about the things that confront the administration, confront the presidency.
We don't need to drag it out.
But let me just say one other thing about this. Here's why the presidential focus, the 2028 focus, I think is bad, is because if you wake up in my job or anybody else's job asking yourself, what's good for my future a few years down the road, you're not going to do a good job right now. The question that I try to ask myself is, what is good for the president, the administration, and the American people right now? That's what I have to be focused on. And I think so long as I do that, again, politics will take care of itself.
I think it's a good message for everybody. Honestly, do your job. If you want to think about something else,
do your job.
Do your job that day. I think that's a good message for everybody. All right, up next, a very scary situation at the office of U.S. Attorney Alina Habba, where an individual showed up with a baseball bat looking for a confrontation, plus a new hate crime investigation into far-left rioters out in Berkeley. Attorney General Pam Bondi right here in studio as we continue from the Washington Swamp.
Interesting. I didn't know Pam Bondi was going to be on, so we'll watch and see what Pam Bondi says. Especially, I'd like to find out what happened with Alina Habba. This guy tried to attack her in her office, so I was going to cut after J.D. Vance, but we might as well listen to Pam Bondi talk and see exactly what happened, because this craziness has got to stop. We got to do something about these nuts. Absolute nuts. All right, before I go further, I want to tell you guys about Chapter. As I'm sure you are well aware, it's Medicare annual enrollment time. And as a newly minted 65-year-old guy myself, that means I'm getting buried under the same spam calls and junk mail that you are, and it's a nightmare. I have also learned that Medicare plans change every single year. Apparently, some even go away. So those of us that love our plans today, it might not be the best one for you in 2026. And if you don't double check, you could lose coverage for doctors or prescriptions that you count on. To make matters worse, most Medicare agents are just pushing the plans that pay them the biggest commissions. That's why I recommend Chapter. I actually use Chapter. And anyone else in the Fanfare family that's used them will tell you they are very good. They check every single plan in America to make sure you get the best deal. On average, they save people $1,100 a year, but that's not off. If you're not one that's really into needing savings, but you just want the best possible coverage, they'll help you get that too. They made it dead simple. They'll review all of your options in under one 20-minute phone call. And if you're already on the right plan, you're done. If not, they'll help you switch. So get some peace of mind during this enrollment period for Medicare. Call Chapter at 3545, and make sure you're set heading into 2026. And you can also go to askchapter.org/Barry. So call them at 475-328-3545 or go to askchapter.org. All right, so they're still in commercial. I haven't heard from you. Oh, by the way, tomorrow's Friday, and I'm going to be going through and hopefully I'll get some submissions I can share with you tomorrow evening or late tomorrow afternoon. But if you'd like to submit a video, go to fanfareshop.org/submit video. And if you'd like to go on our fishing trip, you can go to enter to win at fanfareshop.org/fishing. fanfareshop.org/fishing. What's this all about, Barry? Well, we're going to pick somebody probably next week or right before Thanksgiving, and we're going to fly them down here to South Florida. We're going to put you in a hotel, a 3-day, 2-night hotel. You're going to go fishing, probably with Robin, so I don't get sick, and Robin and some friends. And then we'll go out to dinner, but you get a 3-day, 2-night vacation down here in sunny South Florida, and then you also get to go fishing. So if you'd like to sign up for that, go to fanfareshop.org/fishing, and that's compliments of Fishing Booker. And I put a lady there because I wanted you to know the name of the boat is called the Naughty Girl. It's an unbelievable boat, and I think you guys will like it. And then there's one other thing I can tell you about before Sean comes back on. Let me see if I have it here. Yes. If you'd like to join us over on X and join our private group, you can go to fanfareshop.org/group, and you can join 18,000 plus fellow patriots. All right, that's all our stuff I want to get in so you guys can oh, wait a minute, is there anything? Do I have a picture of the other thing? Wait 1 second. The other giveaway. Oh, yeah, this giveaway. A lot of stuff to show you. If you'd like a free Bible, go to fanfareshop.org/Bible and request a free Bible. That's a whole lot. I know that's a whole lot, and pretty soon we'll be adding the hats to the mix. So you got the Bible, fanfareshop.org/Bible, the fishing trip, fanfareshop.org/fishing. You've got the submit video, fanfareshop.org/submit video, and what was the other one? Fishing. Oh, the group. Go to our group on X, fanfareshop.org/group. That's a lot of stuff, a lot of free stuff that we're. Oh, and then we also have the silver giveaway. And I don't have a picture for that, do I? Let me see if I've got a picture lined up for the silver giveaway. No, I don't have. But if you go to, again, fanfareshop.org/silver, tomorrow I'm going to give away 3 because I've missed like the last 3 days. So we're going to give away 3 1-ounce bars of silver. So all you got to do is go to fanfareshop.org/silver, and you could win an ounce of silver. No, you don't got to pay anything. Just got to go and sign up, and you'll see tomorrow we're going to give away, we'll give away 3 of those tomorrow. All right, so let's get some comments while we're waiting for Pam Bondi. I want a bear skin hoodie. Anyone have one? Yeah, I got one. It's back over there. It came in very handy. It's such a good hood. Oh, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Let's see. LFG Barry, absolutely. What we got here? Anything else? You're awesome, Barry. Thank you very much, Sean. All kinds of good stuff. Okay, here we go. And Sean is back. I didn't know he was going to do this with Pam Bondi. Let's listen in.
Gavin Newsom and his state over gerrymandering and his plan, calling it an illicit power grab. Meanwhile, the DOJ is making very serious progress with their investigation into Biden's weaponization of justice. Apparently, even former Speaker McCarthy's phone records were targeted by Jack Smith, and it's growing by the day. Also developing tonight, a new criminal referral against, Mr. Fang Fang himself, Eric Swalwell. Imagine that. Over what? Another possible mortgage fraud issue. An Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is exploring hate crime charges against those violent anti-free speech writers at UC Berkeley. Finally, a chilling incident in the state of New Jersey. A person of interest is now wanted for questioning after this individual attempted to confront U.S. Attorney Alina Habba at her office with a baseball bat before destroying property and fleeing the scene. All right, here with more. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. So great to see you.
Great to see you,
I
my
appreciate.
friend.
I know your days are busy. I know you're working, 40-hour days, and it seems like everybody in the administration is.
We can't keep up with the president. We're all trying to keep up with Donald Trump, which is a wonderful thing.
Okay, I got to start in the United Socialist Utopia of California.
Where do we start?
Okay, so he wanted to change the rules. They had a commission that would appoint and gerrymander. Tell us about this lawsuit.
It wasn't even illicit. They are flat out publicizing what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it. They're trying to create seats based on race, and they can't do it. And we're going to hold them accountable just like any other state. I mean, they very publicly said, Sean, what they're trying to do, and it's illegal gerrymandering. They cannot do it. So, yeah, we sued them today. We're going to continue suing California until they start complying with the laws of our country, whether it's, what else, sanctuary cities, the Second Amendment. We're winning in the Supreme Court.
National Guard.
Our ICE, that's exactly right, that the National Guard and ICE can be in California to actually protect the citizens of California. Let's see, what else? Illegal emissions from trucks. And look what Sean Duffy did today. Look what he found with all the truckers who were given illegal licenses, truck driving licenses in California. It's constant with that state.
We saw what happened in Florida.
Right.
I mean, the guy couldn't speak English, couldn't read road signs, had a license in Washington State and in California. Sanctuary state status protection allowed him to get that. Should they be held legally accountable for that?
They should. They all should, and California can't do it, and that's why Secretary Duffy today found it, and California pulled 17,000 commercial licenses. I can't even imagine that number of licenses that they pulled, commercial truck driving licenses, because they're letting these people get away with it. And it's not only impacting California, but as you just said, it's impacting the safety of everyone in our country. But we're just going to continue looking at California and everything they're doing. UCLA, anti-Semitism. Harmeet Dillon, right now, as we speak, is in California. I just spoke to her. She's working on, of course, Berkeley, the Antifa riots at Berkeley. That was out of control. I'm sure you saw it. They ripped a cross off a young man's neck before pummeling him.
He was wearing a freedom shirt.
A freedom
the shirt that Charlie was wearing when he was assassinated.
Yeah, they had a turning point rally, peaceful rally, not even a rally, just an event.
It was with a pastor, Pastor Turk.
That's right.
Yeah. Let me go back to, what the amazing thing is, we hear about the lawsuits. The administration, you're winning most of them.
We sure are.
I mean, pretty amazing, actually.
Well, we're winning in the Supreme Court. We're not winning in a lot of district courts because we're not. Look at California. Look at the 9th. Look at the 7th. We have some tough district courts, some tough appellate courts, but when we get to the Supreme Court, the right thing happens, and that's what matters. And yes, we're winning, and Donald Trump is winning. We've been sued well over 500 times, I have, since he's been president.
Wow.
And we're prepared. Our Solicitor General, John Sauer, is off the charts, our civil division. We're just
How do you deal with 500
nonstop.
suits at a time? That's a lot.
A lot of attorneys, a lot of great attorneys.
Yeah. Let me ask you specifically. I want to go to the immigration issue because, and I've been trying to wrap my mind around this. If you are in this country illegally by definition, and we have a constitutional clause that gives jurisdiction to the federal government, not to state governments, right? It's called the Supremacy Clause. And they then bypass that with sanctuary city-state status protection and spend taxpayer dollars. They get a lot of tax money from the federal government. I've asked this question. I've never really got the best answer. How is that not aiding and abetting in the law breaking?
It is. And that's why we're looking at all of these cities, all of these sanctuary states. We're suing them civilly. But to go back, look at Antifa again, what we were just saying at Berkeley. That could be material support for terrorism.
Right.
If the university, they put flyers out, they were going to do this, Sean, 2 weeks in advance. They were going to protest, violent protest. So that's why Harmeet is there. So yes, there are potential criminal charges, but there are civil charges as well. And, we talk about these sanctuary jurisdictions, And people, it jeopardizes the lives of our men and women in law enforcement and the citizens that live there. Because people, if you were an illegal alien, a criminal, a TDA, MS-13, a gang member, where would you go? To a sanctuary city?
Yeah, okay, but groups like Antifa are now a designated terrorist organization. All right, does that do anything? How do we, is there any criminal culpability on the part of politicians that adopt and enforce the sanctuary city provisions or state provisions? I can't imagine there's not. I mean, if I went to the border and I picked up people and I transported them and I fed them and I housed them, I would imagine I could probably be found guilty of aiding and abetting and you know, human trafficking.
We actually charged a judge out west with that, if you don't remember, who was housing a terrorist. You know, we're looking at all that. There's definite civil liability, of course, on behalf of these elected officials and these cities and these states. And we're winning, and we're going to win, and we're going to protect the people of this country.
Yeah. The issue came up today. There were arguments before the judge. This is in, I believe, the Eastern District of Virginia. Lindsay Halligan, a temporary appointment, but a legitimate appointment. And looks like the judge wants to maybe throw out the charges against Comey, for example, on the issue of, well, she doesn't have the right to a temporary appointment. You took very strong issue with that.
We did. We argued that today. Lindsay is a great U.S. attorney. We have great U.S. attorneys around this country. And these judges think that they can control who Donald Trump puts as U.S. attorneys, who the Department of Justice has in place to be a U.S. attorney. It's the executive branch's job to do this. And we're going to fight them. We're going to sue them. We will ultimately win, of course. But yeah, they're attempting to remove many of President Trump's U.S. attorneys around the country. The Comey indictment's going to be just fine. I've also signed on to that, backing up what Lindsay Halligan did because they're coming after her. I read all the transcripts. She's doing a great job. All of our U.S. attorneys are.
The latest court filings, to me, is in layman, extremely damning as it relates to James Comey and lying before Congress, which, by the way, that's one of the issues that the statute of limitations have not run out. I will tell you, Madam Attorney General, I am afraid of one thing. They tried to assassinate President Trump twice. They assassinated a 31-year-old father and husband, our friend Charlie Kirk. I see what happened out in Berkeley. A guy with a baseball bat is going after Alina Habba. We've both known her for a long time. We see what's happened to Katie and Stephen Miller, far worse than people know. I don't even want to mention what you've been through, which has not been as public. Some of it's been public. Yeah. And it's like if you're a conservative and you're in the public eye, this is now standard fare. We live in an assassination culture. And I'm not sure, you know, did you see after the election, you know, a week ago, did you see there was a poll that came out that 95% of people think there's going to be another assassination of a political figure in 5 years? Wow.
I sure hope not, Sean. And you know, take it on the other side. Look what happened to Josh Shapiro just because someone was anti-Semitic, tried to burn down the governor's mansion and with his babies and his wife upstairs in Pennsylvania. So sure, and we both, of course, pray that doesn't happen. But what we can say is we are finding these people, we are arresting them, and we are charging them. They will go to prison for as long as we can send them. We know who did this to Alina Habba. I saw the video. It's chilling. This guy had a full-size baseball bat pacing like a caged animal in front of her office. Then ultimately he gets up to her office without the bat, but manages to tear apart the front office. And mark my words, he will be in jail and he will be prosecuted. What they've done to Stephen and Katie, we found that person. That person is now charged in the Middle District of Florida. You know, the guy that put the hit on me, they found him. People think that they can be anonymous. They think they can get behind a keyboard.
Oh, it's not easy living. I didn't want to be as specific, but yes, there was a hit put out on you. You're the Attorney General. You know, I look at all of this, and it really, I keep hearing from Democrats, Nazi, fascist, racist, Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini. I talk about it all the time. Is that incitement? Is that dehumanization? Do you believe that impacts unstable people and has a causal effect? I have about 30 seconds.
Yeah, Sean, of course it does. It is freedom of speech, but it does. And in the world in which we live, people have to have more compassion. You know, when conservatives can't walk down the street without getting screamed at, they probably couldn't even define a fascist.
Yeah.
But from the river to the sea, Palestine, they don't know what that means.
Yeah.
It's horrific, and they're inciting violence. You're absolutely right.
It's so good to see you in person. Thanks for all the hard work. Honestly, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. I'm glad we got her in there as well. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know she was going to be on tonight, but you guys were able to see that. So I was checking President Trump's schedule for tomorrow. Doesn't look like there's anything really on here. He's obviously coming down here, the Winter White House. It looks as though he's got nothing else on the schedule. He's leaving Washington around 5 o'clock or so, and then would be down here about 7:30. So he's coming down here to Palm Beach. So we'll have to do a different show tomorrow. We'll figure out what we're gonna talk about, and I will see you tomorrow. But before I leave, obviously, I've got to take a look at the super chats. I hope you guys really, I don't mean not to dwell on what I said, but really start thinking, how can both parties be dead? That's what I said at the earlier part of the show. If you guys want to go back and look at it, I think there's some shenanigans going on. I think there's people who are bamboozling people. I think it's a psyop on both sides to try and get people out of the way so they can clear the way for whatever preferred candidate that they want to see. It doesn't seem real whatsoever in terms of all of this stuff all of a sudden happening. If you weren't around at the beginning when I showed you the actual Google Trends where it was a flat line. Nobody was talking about affordable housing. And then all of a sudden, literally out of nowhere, people are starting making that to be a big deal. And now we're talking about burn it all down. And I actually see people who say, oh, Pam Bondi hasn't done anything. And they're like, have you not been following along? Maybe you're following the wrong people. If you think she's not done anything, you're most assuredly following the wrong people. But that's going to be up to you to figure out, because she's winning so much at the Supreme Court level, so much going on. And people just don't seem to know it, or they don't care. They'd rather just stay in the bubble. But understand, there's some really funky stuff happening right about now. Gasworks, thank you very, very much, Gasworks. Thank you. Let me get the big clap. Let's go. I am MAGA American. Yep, not throwing in the towel. Greg Yergin, I got your back, Barry. Wheelchair Cowboy in Carrollton, Georgia. Thank you. 100% God and MAGA. Luis Segala, keep being you, Barry. I shall. Thank you. Look, Ma, I truly believe MAGA will sweep the midterms. These people who are saying stuff like it just needs to be burned to the ground. There's nothing there. It's dead. Again, it just doesn't make any sense. They're not making sense to the people they talk to, but they're listening. Just a girl, thank you, Barry and family. Thank you, Jeremiah Carroll. Lower the price of diesel fuel. Most logistical goods and services travel this way. Why hasn't it happened? Depends on your state. Connie McGee, we saw so much so fast at first we got impatient. Agreed. Buddy Sanders for the Bibles, thank you very much. Buddy, again, lawsuits equal waste of taxpayer dollars. Ernest says, if both parties are dead, then MAGA rules. You are dead on. If both parties, if the old guard Republican elite establishment is dead and the Democrats are dead, that means we're going to win. I just want you to keep the faith. I just hope that people don't talk you into BS. Do your own research and start asking questions. These two things can't simultaneously be true. We shouldn't have to nuke the entire party if they're dead. And if we're dead, then how can they be? It doesn't make any sense. And then this whole affordable housing thing is a ruse. an absolute ruse. It's meant to, I don't know, curry favor with kids who don't know any better. That's the only way this makes sense to me. They just don't know. And they're looking for someone to lead them. And there are many willing people who want to be the Judas goats. If you don't know what a Judas goat is, go put that term. There's a term for you. Judas goat. And when you see what a Judas goat is, you're gonna oh man, Barry, that was harsh. Go look up Judas goat. You'll be pleasantly surprised. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.